Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Pig Health Today, and with me is Carmen Rottenberg. She is the acting deputy undersecretary for food safety at USDA, and also Paul Kicker, who is the acting administrator for FSIS. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Now, you're going to be rolling out a new slaughter inspection program. It is called the New Swine Slaughter Inspection Program. What is it? Why is it needed?
We actually are proposing a rule to modernize hog inspection, swine inspection, and there's two parts to it. The first part, as you mentioned, is a new swine inspection system that is specifically for market hog establishments. We have about 20 years worth of data with a pilot project that we started in the late 90s for 5 swine establishments. And we'll go into a little bit more of the details, but it's needed because it provides additional flexibility and the opportunity for innovation to industry while maintaining the very strict public health standards that we have in this country.
And this is for 600 establishments that currently slaughter swine. And the mandatory aspects are that they have a written procedure within their HACCP system that they can demonstrate that they have process control from the beginning to the end. So that they would verify that there are no enteric pathogens, there's zero tolerance for fecal material, ingesta, those kind of things, and they would actually have a system to take samples so that they can show that they have process control. There would be a requirement that they take a sample pre-evisceration and then another one after they've chilled the carcasses. The second part of that is that they would take samples of product contact surfaces to show that their surfaces are free of pathogens prior to starting processing for that day.
There's really two aspects to this proposal. A new swine inspection system that we think about 40 market hog establishments in this country will have an interest in opting into, and it is an optional system. Plants can maintain traditional inspection if they so choose. And as Paul mentioned, there's over 600 swine establishments in this country, and so there are mandatory requirements for all swine establishments that we are proposing.
So this effort is strictly targeting the slaughterhouses, or will you be
Yes.
sending any inspectors out to the farms themselves?
Our authority is really in the plant at slaughter and then at further processing. For swine slaughter establishments, we have carcass by carcass inspection as a mandatory requirement under our statute. And for further processing, for the products that consumers see in the grocery store, we have our inspectors are there every day, once per production shift. So this is a proposed rule to modernize swine inspection at slaughter.
What do you see as the real benefits to the industry?
So currently, under traditional inspection, you have much more of a command and control type of approach, where the inspector is instructing plant personnel to trim off defects on a carcass that would be strictly a quality defect, a bruise or an abscess or something like that. Under a new swine inspection system, the plant gets to sort out any defects before it gets to the government inspector. So it gives the plant additional flexibility in their operations, both in how they configure how the product is presented to the government inspector, and also lets them make their own business decisions about what they don't want to present for inspection. So under the old system, and it's important to note that inspection regulations that we're currently working with are from the late 1960s, and it's before the implementation of our hazard analysis and critical control point system. And so they're really outdated in terms of the old methodology was really around having all federally inspected establishments be configured exactly the same, because the idea at the time was if the inspector is in charge of producing a safe product, then when we train our inspectors, we want to have all establishments look the same. But now it's the plant's responsibility to produce a safe and wholesome product, and the government inspectors verify that. And so this is really catching up. This new swine inspection system is catching up with that. Plant gets to make their own business decisions about how they configure their lines, new technologies that they want to put into the plants that really have food safety benefits, and then our inspectors are there still inspecting every single carcass, but after the plant has conducted its initial sorting activities.
So it seems like the plants are going to be able to kind of make some of their own rules.
Not their own rules. They just can make decisions about what they want to present into the human food supply, and to be able to trim carcasses and defects before it gets to the government inspector. The government inspector can still, if they see something that's coming in front of them, they can still say, you need to trim this, or you need to reprocess this, or this product is condemned. That's what the job of the government inspector. But it allows our inspection personnel to go and also conduct additional tasks around the plant that have direct correlation with public public health, and these are food safety tasks that will require them to do in these pilot plants. We require it in all establishments, but we know that they're being done at a much higher rate in our pilot project plants and humane handling tasks. It frees up inspection personnel to do humane handling tasks too. So it might require fewer inspectors actually on the line because it's a more efficient and effective process where product can flow more quickly through the process, but it also, we are able to use our resources in other places that have a direct impact on food safety. You know, you can't see pathogen, carcass is coming by, you can't see, but you can test for it. And so we know that we have microbiological data to support the need for this new swine inspection system for these high volume slaughter facilities.
And obviously efficiency is important to any business, but I also know that your agency has been squeezed quite a bit by budgets over the years. How much of this is try to get by with fewer personnel?
It's a great question because it's true. You know, we're always trying to do things more efficient. The secretary has a saying. He says, I really want folks to look at how they can do more with less, but I don't want you to do less with less. And I think that that's an important note because this is actually not about reducing inspection at all. This is not a cost savings for the agency. This is really about if there is another system that is just as effective from the public health standpoint as traditional inspection, but it potentially offers additional flexibility to industry, and ultimately that has an impact on the cost at retail for the consumer, then why wouldn't you do that? It's good government.
So walk me through how this is going to work, and maybe this would be a good question for you. Carcass, or the live pig arrives at the slaughter plant. How is it going to be different, or how would it be different under this new system?
Under the current system, when the hogs arrive at the facility, the inspectors do 100% inspection of all the animals that are coming in. We call that antemortem. Underneath the proposed rule, the plant would be responsible for taking a look at those animals and sorting off any of them that they don't think are going to meet the requirements. So based on that, we gain efficiencies because we're not going to be conducting antemortem on animals that are not going to be fit for human food. The plant would sort.
And can you give me an example? What would be a characteristic?
It could be size and weight. It could be that the animal is stressed out, and based on that, the plant decides that they want to remove that animal from the food chain.
Or lameness, or.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they then stun that animal and remove it from the food system. They have to keep track of the number of animals that they would remove for that day. Then the next part of it is post-mortem inspection. And currently, let's say at head inspection, because that's usually the first part in the process. So at head inspection, currently the inspector would look for all aspects of process control there, including a lot of defects that are strictly related to quality. Underneath the new system, at that point, the company would sort off anything that they feel would not meet the definition of ready-to-cook pork, and then the inspector would only inspect the items that the company has already done the sorting activities on. So it's much more efficient use of the inspector on that line. And the same thing at the viscera station. Again, we would expect the plant to do the sorting. Same thing at the final rail.
And it's important to note that in traditional inspection, after the hog has been slaughtered, the government inspector actually stands with a company employee and says, trim that, Bruce, and then the company employee trims it. So it's a more laborious process as opposed to the company taking the job at the sorting at the beginning. They know what defects that they want to trim off for their own quality purposes for what they want to sell to the public. And so it really positions our inspectors to do food safety, to protect public health.
What do you think pork producers, the folks in live production, need to understand about this new procedure?
we're inviting them to comment on it, and again, there are about 40 establishments that we think might be interested in opting in, and they need to know that as we're moving forward and looking at ways to modernize, that this gives them an additional option for some innovation in their interventions that are food safety related.
One thing that they really need to understand is that they're going to have to be able to demonstrate their process control,
right.
And we're going to be verifying that. It's not just about them gaining line speed. First thing that they need to concentrate on is making sure that they can demonstrate process control.
Yeah.
So anybody who wants to comment on this, how do they go about it? Is there a website?
Yes, they go to www.regulations.gov, and they can post their comment and submit any data with it. It's an easy to read rule. It's in very plain language, so anyone from the industry, consumers, or the public, we invite them to comment.
Well, thank you so much for explaining all that to us.
Right.
I'm sure the industry will be supportive of anything that will improve efficiency and quality, so lots of luck with your initiative.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we've been talking to Carmen Rottenberg. She is the acting Deputy Undersecretary at USDA, and also Paul Kicker, who is the acting administrator for FSIS. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having us.